this, the opening demonstration here, I thought I have to actually change my talk and start with a demonstration too. So this is my Nexus 4 smartphone. I will throw it in the air, and then it will float. It will levitate in the air. Okay? And now that I have your attention, these smartphones actually are amazing devices, right? You all have one of them, and they make your lives more productive, more fun. You can do all kinds of things, right? And when you look at the electronics here, these are more powerful than your desktop computer was, just less than 10 years ago. So when you use them, you might actually think you're just using a really little, small pocket computer. But that's not actually true. So what you're using instead is, yes, a little, small computer. But that computer is connected to a very large computer, and that large computer is a data center. And the data center is connected to your phone pretty much all the time, but in that data center is really where the internet lives. And so today I want to show you what we've been up to for the past more than 10 years, and how these data centers really look like and how they work. And hopefully also that they're beautiful in their own way. So a little bit of history first. When Larry and Sergey started Google, they needed a data center too. And that was the first data center at Stanford. They needed one because that was in 1995. They wanted to build a search engine. And to build a search engine, you first need to have something to search over. And so they tried to basically download the internet. And at the time, the internet was about an estimated 10 million pages of information. So it was a huge job, and they had to assemble lots and lots of machines at that time. And you see that there's some Lego in the background. And these machines were carefully chosen, and the main criteria at the time was that the owner of the machine didn't notice that it was missing. So a little bit later, a few years later, this was in 1999, so just in the first year of Google's commercial existence. This was in a rented data center. These are some of our servers. You see we have some cooling problems. The data center wasn't really very well designed, and had all kinds of problems. And we kind of dealt with that, but over time we noticed that there actually are problems there that should not exist, and that cost a lot of money for no good reason. And so we set about to improve that, and as we were growing, to really solve a larger problem, and to basically figure out how we can house all of that information and all of that computation in places that are secure, reliable, and efficient. So this is why we talk about where our part of the internet lives. And just to give you a little bit of context, the problem obviously has grown since 1995 when Larry and Sergey first started. Back then it was 10 million pages. Today we know about over 1 trillion web pages. So that's a factor of 100,000 growth in just those 17 years or so. So that obviously needs a better infrastructure. And that better infrastructure serves also a much larger population. Right? So today we serve billions of users with our main services, search. YouTube, for example, gets uploaded 3 days worth of videos every minute and every day, right? Every minute of every day. And so you have to store all of these things, and we store them in data centers. Here's our very first data center in Oregon. It's the very first one that we built sort of from scratch. Here's another one in Oklahoma, the building in the front. And here's one in our most recent one in Finland. This building used to be a paper mill before we converted it to a data center. Now, you might ask, okay, what is a data center other than, big building? Well, the data center is, in fact, a big building. It has three purposes. It needs to be secure so that your data is safe. It needs to deliver power so that all the servers inside the building actually work. And then all that power turns into heat. So it needs to remove that heat from the building. And all of that, obviously, you want to do as cheaply as possible and as efficiently as possible. So let's look inside a data center. This is a view of the main cooling hall in Finland. In Finland, basically what you see is seawater from the Gulf of Finland coming in. It's going through, I have a laser pointer here. It's going through these heat exchangers here. So this is the cold water coming in. It's going through this heat exchanger, and this is the warm water that comes from the floor that was heated up by the servers, and it just exchanges heat in these very simple devices. A bunch of pumps, to move the water around. Very, very simple system and very, very effective system. Here's another system in a data center in the US, near Atlanta. And for scale, you see a Google bike, which you actually need to get around in the building because it's kind of large. Here again, basically, you see pipes. The red and blue ones come from the floor. Red is warm, blue is cold. So blue is going out to the floor, red is coming back from the floor. And then, well, mostly you should pay attention to the green and yellow. That is the ones that remove the heat to cooling towers. So in this particular data center, that heat goes into cooling tower, and that cooling tower just evaporates water. And as you know, it takes a lot of energy to boil water. It takes even more energy to evaporate water. So when you evaporate water, you can remove a lot of heat very, very easily. Basically, the natural environment does it for you. And in this particular case, we actually built a water treatment plant so that we can use slightly treated, recycled water for that whole process. And then finally, here's what then actually happens on the floor. So this is a view between servers. What you see on both sides are the fans that are sort of on the back of servers. So imagine if air flows through these servers, gets warmed up, because that's where the electronics are, and the hot air goes into this plenum, into this space. And you can see in the water, in the foreground, a hose. That's a water hose. And the air gets pushed up. Can't see it in this picture, but at the roof of this little, mini building, if you want, there are coils. And the air gets pushed through those coils. The cold water flows through those coils, and therefore the air cools down, and the whole circle starts again. Very, very simple system and very effective system. The other secret is that this air actually is kept pretty warm, because if your temperature is high in the room, you actually need less energy to cool. Traditionally, data centers have been kept at something like 18 degrees. And there was a good reason for that. But that reason ended in the 1960s. And for no particular reason other than tradition, people kept using that same temperature. But today's computers don't actually need 18 degrees to work. In fact, they work in your home in the summer when it's 30 degrees, and they don't actually break. Right? So in our data centers, people wear shorts and they wear t-shirts because our cold temperature, the temperature not in the middle of these, where the warm air comes out, but in the front where it's cool is 27 degrees. So it's pretty warm, and you actually need to wear shorts because if you move things around, you start getting sweaty. Another key thing here, this is a picture of a server room where we have commercial gear that has some more restrictions. So we have a little bit of different setup, but you see that there are these plastic curtains in here. And these plastic curtains, they separate the space that should be cold or cool, 27 degrees, from the rest of the space that can be arbitrarily warm. And in this particular case, so this is in a more traditional place where we host some networking gear, you see the cold air coming out of the floor, but these curtains keep it in front of the machines that actually need the cold air and prevent it from going out. And that again saves lots of energy. Here is a picture from Oregon again. This is the cooling towers of Oregon. Cooling tower is a very simple device. Basically, the warm water comes in at the top. It kind of gets sprayed over something that's called a fill. It's basically a bunch of plastic walls that just let the water trickle down. And then you have a fan that pushes air through that tower and then evaporates some water. So very, very simple. This is a 2 or 3 second photo so that you can actually see the slight fog that's coming out. This is another picture of Finland. You see here in the winter, obviously we take cold water from the Gulf of Finland to cool. The water we put back is really not much warmer. It's just a few degrees warmer, so not enough to open the ice not even in March. And then finally, you can also just flow air through a building. This is a data center in Ireland. In that data center, because Ireland has perfect weather, at least if you're a data center guy, and that means, what I mean by that is basically never warmer than 27 degrees Celsius, just the outside air. So what we do here, this is basically a huge open wall with sort of fans behind it, and it just pushes the air through the building out on the other side, and then replaces it with new air from the outside. So this is another way how you can cool things. And you notice that in no place here did I mention refrigeration, right, or chillers. So most of our data centers don't have mechanical refrigeration, big chillers that consume our energies, because if you use this so-called free cooling or environmental cooling, then that's just plenty. So let me show you a few more pictures of the inside. Here's a picture of a data center that's sort of being built out, tight security, that's an important part. You see lots of servers. Here's another picture of a data center in Iowa. That one was taken with no person in the room, so the lights go off. And it's a 30-second exposure, so the light that you see here isn't artificial light. It's actually the light from all the LEDs of the servers that, in a long exposure, make it, turn it into a really beautiful space. Here's one of our repairs guys wearing t-shirt and shorts. You can see them. We build our own servers too, because we want to leave out any part that's not necessary, and we really have highly optimized them for both the function that they perform and to make them really efficient. Brief mention just of efficiency. Through all these techniques, our data centers use about half of the energy of traditional data centers. Most of the reduction comes from the cooling effort, really, that is much, much lower. Some of the reduction comes from our servers being less efficient. We try to power them with renewable energy, as sort of everyone should. We're at about 30%, a third today, trying to work up every year in order to get to 100%. And all of that makes the overall operation pretty efficient. So one way of looking at it is a comparison like this. Ironing a shirt, don't do it. Do Google searches instead. Or, for example, to produce a glass of orange juice is the equivalent of pretty many searches. Using Gmail is again, energetically very cheap, because moving electrons is a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient than moving atoms, right? Real things in the real world. One more thought that I just wanted to end with is that all of that effort goes into building products and and services. And when you use this phone, you hopefully enjoy using the phone, and you actually hopefully see that your productivity goes up, right? If you have a question, if you need directions, if you want to see the news, whatever, you can do it right away, and that leads to productivity improvement. And that productivity improvement you see not just as a person, but in companies, and in fact in entire economies. So the internet, fortunately, is one of the growth stories in the last 5 or 10 years. And but not just for the internet companies themselves, so not just for Google, but for the companies that use the internet. So something like 21% of the last 5 years of economic growth in the G20 states actually is directly attributable to internet tools, right? Things like search, Gmail, and so on. And in France, for example, a study showed that the internet is helping to create 450,000 jobs between 2010 and 2015, not in the internet itself, but through the internet, enabling commerce, connecting businesses to their customers, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're talking here is really tools being used by everyone. And so I'm very happy that we are one of the providers of those tools that make everyone more effective. Small businesses, large businesses, even individuals like you. And through that, we really try and provide value everywhere. For example, by showing off our pictures, but also by sending, and I want to mention that since there's a debate today, by sending 100,000 clicks per minute, every minute, to other websites for free. So all of that is made possible in buildings like this here in Finland in this case. So thank you very much.